you know what? I'm just gonna use the knowledge that I do have now and just kind of just coast by in a way. You know what I mean? Because
I know exactly what you mean. Coast by, be comfortable. That's my point, bro. Like, yeah, that's fair, bro. I've been there. You have no idea who you're talking to. I've literally been king degenerate, just sitting on my ass all day playing video games, watching YouTube. No job. I've been there. But right now, I'm still figuring it out. That's all. You're always figuring it out. I think you, a lot of the times, get caught up in the one day versus day one. And you think that just because you're starting today, that's going to change the fact that tomorrow is going to be another day one. And then the day after that's going to be another day one. And you almost get burnt out thinking about the whole picture before it even comes. So it makes it easier to say, well, then if I don't succeed, I can excuse the fact that I've been coasting, so I didn't really fail because I didn't really try my hardest. And I'm not saying you're doing all this consciously. A lot of this is unconscious, self-destructive behaviors because you haven't gone out into the world and conquered some shit. You haven't gone out into the world and shown what you're capable of and actually manifesting that potential. Not only are you my client, but like you're my boy. And these are the conversations that, again, is this any different than what we'd have post-workout?
Not at all. And I knew I was gonna, you were gonna bring me something that was gonna make me uncomfortable, but I know in the long run, it's gonna really benefit me. Like I said,
the champion mindset. And that's why people couldn't stand Michael Jordan. Because they were like, they're like, bro, we can't be you. And he's like, well, I don't care. Try your hardest to be the best you. Not only is change needed, listen, change is inevitable.
It's inevitable.
We're back at the Post-Workout Podcast. We got Danny Campos back in the building.
This is crazy. I'm so glad to be back, honestly.
Yeah, man. Third time.
It's crazy to think about, like, holy crap. And it's crazy to be back for a third time because I was just thinking about it recently, how the last 2 times I was here and thinking about how different each time I was on here was. The first time we did this episode, I was so uncertain of myself and so insecure that thinking about it now, what I was saying, I was not self-aware of what I was saying that at that time. I was like, what am I saying? Like, I didn't understand the magnitude of what my words meant. The second time I came around, it was just me starting to come into that certainty and starting to become more comfortable with myself, and it's safe to say that this time around, I've been really more certain of who I am and being comfortable in my own skin.
Heck yeah, man. Do you still, I see you're back in the gym. I see you're still skateboarding. That's good. Yeah. You're maintaining that discipline, committing to something and being consistent in that commitment.
Mm-hmm.
What's your eating and nutrition look like?
When it comes to that, by your standards, still not the best, but
by my standards,
just because I know how much you preach that, how much.
But what do you qualify my standards as being?
Keeping track of all the macronutrients, all that stuff. Personally, I haven't really.
I don't think you got to keep track of all that. I think when it comes to your macronutrients, you need to have a base understanding of what your 4 macronutrients are, which is your caloric intake, your proteins, your carbs, and your fats. And just by knowing how much of those you relatively need every day to attain and achieve whatever your base goal is, that's all my standard really is. I don't think you have to do anything any more or less than even like tracking how much water you drink. It's just more things to consider. Yeah. But I'm assuming you're not tracking your macronutrients.
No, but the thing is, now I'm able to keep in mind of what I'm taking in. For example, I make sure to get my protein in just a good decent amount. Usually,
how much?
I'd say close to at least 100 a day. At least, just that's the bare minimum I try to get every day. Just keeping that in mind. And then carbs, that's way too easy. You can get that anywhere. Fats haven't kept too much of, but honestly, I haven't really kept track of it for my own sake. Just for the fact that my relationship with food has been an up and down battle, just because of like from overweight, eating a lot, to losing all that weight and not eating enough, to keeping track and like associating it with how my physical looks and interpreting that into
like your self-worth.
Yeah, my self-worth. That makes sense. Like, if I don't get enough protein, then my
body's not going to be as muscular. And
that's what it was. And I was like, I realized now that was really mentally messing me up. And recently too, I've realized that a lot of my life, when it came to working out, eating right, and I was doing all that, But the problem was I wasn't doing it for myself. I was doing it for others. Yeah. And like a couple months ago, I just kind of stopped doing it because I lost motivation. It's like, why am I even doing it? And I went 2 or 3 months without working out, eating none of that stuff. And then one day I just woke up and my body was just screaming at me, being like, get back in the gym. You have to do something. Otherwise, you're going to regret it. And I listened to it and I just said, you know what? I'm just going to at least keep myself in the gym and keep active because it feels good. And I know it's going to benefit me because I've worked out pretty much half of my life. And I'm like, I know what it feels like. Feels good. Just at least do it for yourself and get back into the swing of it.
So you've worked out. So it's safe to say you've worked out for nearly half your life, or just a long majority of life. I'm not trying to be like I'm not trying to be a stickler about this. I'm just trying to do a deduction for you. Is it safe to say you've worked out for more than 10 years?
Getting close to it.
Getting close to it because about when you were 15, right? You're 25 now, right?
Yeah. I actually started working out when I was 14. So yeah, half of my life.
So 10.
Close.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying 10 plus years at least, right? How many years have you been eating clean?
Eating clean, I didn't start learning about it until I would say 5 years in.
Okay.
So 2011 was when I was 14. I started working out my freshman year of high school. When it came to all the protein and carbs and everything like that, it was just I had to stick to it. So disciplined. I got to do it and be really committed to it. Not realizing that I was, it was mentally messing me up because I wasn't aware of anything. I had no self-awareness.
Like the macronutrients and stuff?
And no, just like
of what food does to your body relative to working out.
That and just balance. You know what I mean?
Balancing what? The working out and food? Or
the food.
Or just clean and bad food?
Clean and bad food.
Okay.
Because I was just be so committed to eating clean that I was limiting myself like hardcore, like the social aspect of it.
This is when you were like 20?
About 1920. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and it was like, at the time I was like, I'm so committed to this, not knowing that it was just very extreme. Like we talked about on the last podcast, how I had that mindset of just being so extreme, one or the other, that like I couldn't find that happy medium. You know what I mean?
A sustainable medium.
Nah. Right. And this whole fitness journey I've had, it's all been in hindsight, not really sustainable because it's always been one extreme or the other.
Right.
And right now, I think it's kind of that restart where I'm just kind of like, trying to understand how to sustain it.
Right.
And first of all, it's just working out for myself. First of all, like recently, like I work out minimum 3 times a week, whether it's working out my upper body, lower body, or boxing. That I've been really trying to keep up on, especially since we haven't really been in here in months, but I've been really trying to work on my 1, 2, 3, 4s, kind of finding that happy medium and just making sure that I'm doing it for myself, The
reason I asked about the nutrition as a base fundamental is because how many hours in a day do you work out typically?
About an hour max.
And how many hours in a day are you supposed to be eating and digesting food technically?
24 hours. It's just nonstop,
Nonstop. So if you had to prioritize an emphasis on one or the other, which one does it seem like you should emphasize more on?
In hindsight,
I'm not saying, and again, I'm not telling you you're doing anything wrong right now, Danny. I'm just telling you, the whole point of getting out of complacency is getting out of comfort to get uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
And it's uncomfortable being in the gym and working out relative to sitting on the couch and playing video games, right?
Definitely.
For sure. But for you, working out's pretty comfortable relative to eating clean consistently. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's fair to say that it's still something that I'm still trying to understand because I've been on both extreme sides of it, from my childhood when I was just eating nothing but just crappy food and I didn't understand it, just nothing but carbs, overeating.
Right.
And then that other side where I was just so committed.
Right.
And it was so like, I have to stay committed, otherwise I'm going to lose all my gains. And now it's kind of that like kind of swaying back and forth, be like, you know what, I'm just going to use the knowledge that I do have now and just kind of just coast by in a way. You know what I mean? Because
I know exactly what you mean. Coast by, be comfortable. That's my point, bro. Like you see what I'm saying? Like you do a good job almost telling yourself that like, and a lot of people do this, especially when you're smart. Like you do a good job telling yourself you're doing enough. Did you see the video on the when I talked about the bell curve distribution with Mo when we talked about being a leader? Did you watch that video or no?
I don't know. I didn't.
Okay,
But
so that video, we just went more in depth on the bell curve distribution and how to be the top 1% version of yourself. The only way to do that is to continually be uncomfortable and to find comfort in that uncomfort by pushing your boundaries nonstop. And it seemed like last time, let's just say from the first podcast to the second, that evolutionary growth, the fall down and the comeback was very resemblance of what you're enduring now, which was you fell off optimization, you started with working out, and you pretty much committed the entire getting better, being more disciplined to just the working out. And then that took you so far until it fell off again. I'm asking the degree to which you put an emphasis on nutrition, which it doesn't seem like you've put that much of an emphasis because like you said, you've been coasting, which I get it, brother. Trust me, I get it. But that's really where you're going to see the gains. Not only the gains, the sustainability in the gains. Yeah. Because just the working out is only going to give you a limited extracurricular jubilance and positivity to the degree of the chemicals you release. The endocannabinoids and all the good things you release, the extra dopamine and everything you get from working out is substantiated. But if you eat clean and truly do that consistently, you'll have even more endocannabinoids and even more dopamine from the working out. See what I mean? So the working out is just incomplete without the nutrition. And since there's that ratio on the importance of each relative to how much time is spent on each during the day, I think it's crucial you start really putting a priority on the nutrition.
Yeah. I think when it comes to that, it's like just working out, firstly working out, the biggest question I asked myself was, what do I want? Do I want to lose weight? Do I want to gain muscle?
What do you want?
And I'm gonna get into that. It's like, what do I really want? Do I want to gain muscle? Why do I want to gain muscle? What's the main reason? Do I want to lose weight? Well, why do I want to lose weight? Different things like that. And I had this realization too, that the reason why I wanted to have that stage of gaining muscle in the first place was for others.
To impress other people.
Yeah. Like
namely females.
Yeah. And just being like, oh yeah, like, and so many times I was like, I would question it. And same thing with like losing weight, which hasn't been the biggest worry, but it's mostly been gaining muscle. But it was really just because of just like wanting to impress others. And now I'm just like, what do I really want? And I'm like, you know what? I'm not so set on gaining muscle, gaining all this craziness. I'm just like, the minimum at least is just to keep myself active because, like I said,
I respect that.
Because the gaining muscle, man, it's like I used to convince myself that, I'm gonna be more confident with my muscle if I get really jacked and big. And I was so committed, but then like it would make me so unhappy. Like I just wasn't having that confidence, just like doing all that. And in no way am I trying to discredit, working out, eating right, all that stuff. This is just from my own personal experience. I just wasn't happy.
But you weren't happy with regards to the foundation of the goal, which was doing it for others and not yourself. Yeah. But now that we've gotten that taken care of, now that you're doing it for yourself, do you see why for yourself it's disingenuous to only commit to the part that you're comfortable with, which is working out?
It's something that I think that I'm still figuring out, which is like you've always preached, and I really keep it in mind, as Rome wasn't built in a day. And the working out is still something I'm still figuring out. And like now recently, just with the working out part, I don't go in there overthinking stuff.
Right. And that's the perfect part, because now again, you found out that why am I even coming in here in the first place? It's I can be better. Yeah. So you can be better.
And it's my escape. And like, it's funny because I was watching your video with you, Raymond and Rob. And it's funny because I think Rob said something about how every single day, you want to optimize your day as much as you can, but the threshold can switch up every here and there. But even attempting to reach that threshold, even just a little bit, or if you make it all the way, that's all, that's all that matters. Just even trying to reach that threshold, wherever it's at, whether it's all the way up high or if it's kind of middle or down low.
Just trying your best.
Yeah. And that's what, like, my threshold, I'm not sure what my threshold is, but just for me, the minimum is just working out in the first place.
Is your threshold for your nutrition just coasting?
I would say right now, yes. But but I want you to know that it's not something that I don't see. Like, I don't see it lasting forever.
It's funny because, like, I'm sure to the audience, this may seem some type of way, but you're one of my clients, bro. And there's a part of me that has to still keep you accountable to the top 1% version of yourself. And we haven't talked in forever. And there's a reason, like, there's a reason why I've even been communicating with you a certain way, bro, because you have to truly realize, like, when is enough enough? When are you going to, like, really understand what you're capable of and adopt that responsibility and truly manifest it? Because coasting on your nutrition and saying, but at least I'm working out, I do applaud that. That's better than most people, bro. Like, truly. But, I mean, is that all you want to stay at?
Definitely not.
Because it was the same thing last year. And it's not about looking a certain way. And again, absorb all this before we respond. Have you seen me falter in an inconsistent manner since you've known me? Like, honestly.
You stayed pretty, you've always been yourself. You've always staying true to living in your truth.
Do I maintain a certain level of consistency in my energy and my efforts?
Always.
The only reason I do that is because I know the minute I falter, whether that is the same, like Raymond was, or like Rob was saying, the degree to which you actually achieve that dub each day is always going to be variable, but attempting and trying your best each day to reach that goal and reach that dub is really all that matters. The reason why truly you can answer yes to both those questions is because I at least try every day to be comfortable in the uncomfort of being in the top 1% version of yourself. And so when I ask you little things like, what's more important, your nutrition or your fitness? What do you think you should prioritize more of your focus? What should you focus and prioritize more of your time and effort and energy on? Your nutrition or your fitness? And every time it's the same answer as last year, which is I want to do what makes me comfortable and what makes me happy. And as men, you will find, as just humans, you will find so much more fulfillment and gratification overcoming things you don't want to do and that doesn't make you happy. But you can't overcome that unless you put yourself in a position to endure that uncomfortable suffering and unhappiness. But if you stay doing just what makes you comfortable, Danny, you're going to reap the same results and the same rewards year after year, decade after decade, day after day, month after month.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, the only thing I can think about is how am I going to be able to overcome the mental struggle of the nutrition part? That's the only thing that comes to my mind, because that's really what it comes down to is the mental struggle of it.
What is it about eating clean other than the extremes, other than your experience of only enduring the extremes? Like at the beginning, you even connotating and associating my standard as this extreme standard is an indicator of your projection of your insecurity on what my standard actually is. And I've helped enough people with the bare minimum of tracking their macronutrients and fixing their diet and nutrition to truly understand the effort and workload it takes relative to the things they do every single day, especially parents, like people that have children. They understand what actual hard work, being uncomfortable, and responsibility and sacrifice is because they do that with their children if they're good parents. Mm-hmm. You're not a parent. You don't really have severe responsibilities outside of a day job. So the question is, and dude, you got so much potential. I was blaring "Is It Bad" for a minute until like you started irritating me, and then I had to stop playing it. Think about that.
How did I do that? It's just I didn't know that.
I know you didn't know that, but my communication and us not training should be an indicator of truly where we stand. I'm not going to waste time with people that are going to live in insanity, thinking they're in the top 1%, but just thinking it, not doing it. Dude, that song was a banger. I blared that for a minute. But guess what? I started associating then the song with your actions. Because do you think, that even the girl that you did the song with, like, is she still writing music? Like, do you think she's still putting in time and effort into her craft? Like, you got to ask yourself, is that something you really want to do? Because if it is, are you putting in the time and the effort to truly be uncomfortable to make it in that craft?
Mm-hmm. It's funny you say that too, because I had this sit down with myself and I really had to ask myself the hard questions. Do I really want to do this? Do I want to make music? Do I want to act? Do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? And I really had to be brutally honest with myself. And to be honest with you, like I said, I don't see myself really going hard at this, like something for fun. And as sad as it is to think about in my head, I'm like, the reason is because I get so easily burnt out from it, trying to put so much pressure on myself.
Why?
It stems from the fact that having fun, I feel like just enjoying it firstly out of anything is enjoying it as the foundation. A lot of times when I would do that, I wouldn't put that as my foundation. Trying to blow up and be desired and being famous was the foundation of it all. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Wanting
yeah.
to be looked at. And that's what I did for a lot of times. And I was able to do it. I was like, oh, I want people to look. I want to be desired.
Doing it for others.
Yeah. Mhm. And I had to ask myself, like, does it really, am I doing it for this or for that? And in no way, it's not me saying, oh, I hate it. I enjoy it, but I ask myself, am I enjoying it for the wrong reasons?
Are you enjoying it again to impress and for yourself, or to impress and do it for others?
I was using it as a way to reach those and impress others by a character instead of myself.
Exactly.
You know, like,
Who you think they want you to be versus you being who you actually are.
yeah. And when it comes back to the potential, the one thing I've realized, and I've actually thought about this, and I've actually cried a couple of times thinking about it, is understanding my own potential. And it's still something I'm trying to grasp on. And I've had moments recently where I'm like, I'm starting to understand my potential more and more. And right now, coasting by, no way, I'm not saying that this is what's going to be like. It's just right now, it's just understanding more and more of that potential, little by little by little. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but you say so much great things and then you end up caveating it with, but right now I'm going to be chilling. Like, but right now I'm still figuring it out. That's all. You're always figuring it out. You're always having to like that's the point, bro. I think you a lot of the times get caught up in the one day versus day one. And you think that just because you're starting today, that's going to change the fact that tomorrow is going to be another day one. And then the day after that's going to be another day one. And you almost get burnt out thinking about the whole picture before it even comes. So it makes it easier to say, well, then if I don't succeed, I can excuse the fact that I've been coasting. So I didn't really fail because I didn't really try my hardest. And I'm not saying you're doing all this consciously. A lot of this is unconscious, self-destructive behaviors because you haven't gone out into the world and conquered some shit. You haven't gone out into the world and shown what you're capable of and actually manifesting that potential. Many opportunities to move up as a waiter, but we stay comfortable. Why? Because you can put headphones on and you can do what you're continually comfortable. You continually do what you're comfortable doing because that's what you've been doing. I don't want to, again, because not only are you my client, but like you're my boy. And these are the conversations that, again, is this any different than what we'd have post-workout?
Not at all. And I knew I was going to, you were going to bring me something that was going to make me uncomfortable. But I know in the long run, it's going to really benefit me. Like I said, it was something I'm still understanding. All this different advice I'm getting is something that I'm just learning how to incorporate into my own life. And I've made some mistakes. It's all about,
you always will.
Yeah. And that's part of life. And, I know that going back to my potentials, like I'm knowing that it's not going to be like this forever. You know what I mean? And I know that the one day versus day one is something that's still like, it's something I'm still understanding. I want you to know that.
I know, brother.
It's like,
we're almost a build a day. It's a day by day process.
It's fair to say that right now the foundation to the Roman Colosseum is underway.
For sure, brother.
So,
and again, me not reaching out to you, me not giving you the gratification of when you asked me for advice on like some of your boxing stuff and you were like passive aggressively kind of reaching out to like communicate with bro and to talk. I know what goes on behind the scenes and stuff. So like, plus my job is to psychoanalyze people. So like there's a certain level I think you can understand, or at least I hope appreciate, that I'm not just like spitting in the wind anytime I make criticism on you, because you are my people and I'm not going to waste my time setting all this up, eventually editing all this for my own fucking ass wiping gratification. A lot of this is shit we would have talked about anyway, but it's things that I think at some point we need to both be honest with ourselves and say, when's enough enough? You know what I mean?
It's something that I'm really asking. Like I said, it's a lot of stuff I'm still trying to understand. Like the fact, like the texting, when I text you, you don't text back. A part of me starts asking myself, like, "Oh, are we not friends anymore?" Oh fuck! But it's like dead ass, dude. Like
that's why I don't text back.
Yeah, no, and like I really had to like rethink it again. Like he's psychoanalyzing, and I get it. That's completely okay with me. It's going to the expectations. That's one thing I've actually have been really getting better at understanding is that at the end of the day, nobody owes you anything. Nobody cares, and nobody owes you anything. The only person that you should care about from the first place or owe it is yourself. And that's something that I'm really trying to understand, and it have been understanding.
Yeah.
It's like you don't owe me like you don't owe me, you know, anything. Like you don't have to do this podcast with me. Like I asked you, like you could have been like, nah, and then understanding like, okay, that's fine. Maybe we won't ever do one again. And that's fine. It is what it is. Like you don't owe me anything.
And that reality of your mindset versus the former immature reality of your mindset is one of truly living in the truth of that versus dwelling in the insecurity of your own world, which is the former being, all right, Mitchell, you say you don't want a podcast. All right, I'll do something else on the 4th of July. But there was a time where you would have responded with a level of insecurity and legit like feeling some type of way that would have hindered the rest of your day, the rest of your week, the rest of your month, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. And it's funny because I've had this realization. The best advice I've gotten recently was no matter what happens, no matter what people say, good or bad, no matter what happens in your life experiences, good or bad, it's not going to make your life shorter or longer. And I would treat every single situation or conversation like it was life or death. Like on top of codependency, the one thing I struggle with is codependency and not really thinking 2 or 3 steps ahead. That makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
Like
do you realize a lot of men nowadays struggle with that though, especially the younger generation?
Nope.
So when do you think men had to move out the house and be a man essentially? 100 years ago.
By the time they were 18 or maybe even earlier than that.
Right. They had to at least be ready. They had to at least be equipped enough to be able to survive on their own by the age of like 16 to 18 to 21, right?
Mm-hmm.
What ends up happening is with technology, with education, with the way society is nowadays, it allows people to not have to get uncomfortable and to not have to essentially grow up as fast as they used to have to. So what a 25-year-old man like you and I are, I mean, it's way different than what 25-year-old men were 100 years ago. The 25-year-old version of me I could have been versus the 25-year-old version of me that I currently am are also 2 different humans. No different than who I currently am versus who I would have been 100 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So that codependency and that not thinking 3 steps ahead is a result of you having the luxury to be as comfortable as you've been in the 21st century. Mm-hmm. But identifying that as the first marker to be able to move on and move past those modern wayward ways that keep you stuck in complacency. Mm-hmm. So you identifying you have these codependency issues, you identifying at 25 years old, again, I'll cut this part out, but this is for you. At 25 years old, you need to realize you're more than a busser. That's why the DNA relationships is so important. I don't think it's up there, but I had to point to it. I don't think it's up there. The bell curve distribution is up there, though. Does that make sense, though?
Mm-hmm. I think all this information, like I said, I'm still being able to synthesize with it and trying to interpret it and on my end and how it's trial and error. You know what I mean? Because, like I said,
there's no amount of things I can tell you for you to truly get it. You do have to experience it.
Yeah, that's something I always tell myself. Like I have to learn that I always have to learn through experience. And
what you used to call the hard way,
but just experience.
Exactly.
That was my caveating,
Nice.
But just learning through it. And my whole life just always been a scared human being, but now it's like breaking down that wall and just pushing myself. Like, you know, for example, still working and being a host now. I'm like, man, I think it's time for me to get out of there and do something different, or go be a server somewhere else, or things like that. And of course,
I think you could make a lot of good money being a server there. I truly do. You have the personable personality. You have the charm. You got all the stuff. It's just That's going to take a little more effort, especially because we are guys in the service industry.
Yeah. And that's something I don't really try to think about. I'm just like, look,
of course, don't think about it.
Yeah.
Don't dwell on it, but you should at least think about it and consider it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you won't think about it and you won't consider it, and then you'll repress it. And then it'll reveal itself in your unconscious.
I think that's something I'm able to get a grasp on for sure. It's just that, like, it's a matter of thinking 2-3 steps ahead. And
Right.
one of my friends, my friend Carlos, one of the things he told me is like, you should try chess because that really tests your brain and mental, and just like, how are you able to think ahead and just be like, oh, if I do this, then I can do this and do that. I would try to do that, but it would mostly be, oh, if I do this, what happened if this? I would just go in this rabbit hole of just like negativity possibilities, you know?
Right.
And
I call it anticipatory angst.
Mhm.
You start anticipating all this angst that doesn't exist.
And it's fair to say that anticipatory angst has dwindled a lot recently too.
It shows in your behaviors.
It's crazy. Like, it's crazy. Like I said, it's like there's so much that I'm still learning, but there's like, you know, I already tell that we have the similar conversation that we had 4 months ago, but there's still other things that, you know, we can evolve and, you know, look into more. You know what I mean? Like,
for sure.
Like you said, and Rome wasn't built in a day. There's things that I'm still figuring out. And like I said, the nutrition part, that's going to take me some time, but I know it's possible. I know.
I
know it pisses you off. I know.
Yes, I understand what you mean by it's going to take you some time, but you need to put an emphasis on it sooner rather than later, because you will reap the rewards from it sooner rather than later. Especially on the diet and nutrition side.
It really comes back to how I'm going to go about it in my formula. That's like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But again, your formula, now we got to go correct that real quick. Your formula is still one of wanting to be comfortable to some degree. And that's where you're going to have to start calibrating and recalibrating that formula to one that's going to gear you more towards your optimal self.
And also asking myself, how bad do I want it? Do I really want it that bad? Like, prioritize. And yeah, it's fair to say I haven't really wanted or prioritized it. You know, working out was is still the thing that I'm like still prioritizing, just to really understand that more and
I like that.
Focus on one thing at a time instead of like I said, because my problem I have is trying to focus on too many things at one time.
Right, but you focused on fitness enough. You have that down packed, and now it's about getting comfortable again. You just want to get comfortable again. And I'm telling you, you have the fitness down packed. You need to focus on one thing at a time. You're right. Fitness on the wayside, nutrition is the first thing you need to focus on.
I wouldn't say that I have it down. I think it was mostly just like acting like I know what I was doing.
It's right, but I'm not saying you're a fitness expert. I'm just saying you have the comfortability of being able to go into a gym, knowing what it is you're supposed to do to get the results that you want. You have that down packed way more efficiently than most people.
Even then, it's funny. Even then, I was like asking, like, even when it comes to working out, like, even just the way I was doing workouts, I don't even think I was doing it right either. I wasn't paying attention to
the things we fixed and corrected again, it was so in the moment, it was so minuscule, like fully extending your arms on a bicep curl, understanding your posture whenever you're doing certain movements. Like, these are things that I would never expect most people, let alone somebody who is comfortable in the gym, to execute. But again, you will always be able to get better in that domain. I think if you're going to have the mindset that, well, I got to focus on one thing, then you need to focus on nutrition. And I'm not sitting here having this conversation hoping you're going to walk away saying, all right, Mitchell, you're right. I'm going to focus on nutrition. That's it. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, please understand, I wouldn't be saying any of this shit if I didn't think it was more important for Danny, for your life circumstances, to truly start getting uncomfortable in the domain of fitness and health in something you're not as comfortable in, which is the nutrition relative to the fitness.
I mean, I'm already uncomfortable right now, but I know it's a good thing just because I knew this was something that was going to happen because, you know, you're Mitchell, you know, you always speak the way you speak, and in no way that what you're saying is like, oh, it's one ear out the other. You know what I mean? It's at the end of the day, you're the person that, yes, you can lead me to the water, but you're not going to force me to drink. You know what I mean? And that's really up to me. Like, I've been becoming more self-aware of what I've been doing and like understanding like the repercussions or consequences or the reactions of it.
Right.
And that's where I've been able to kind of understand it more and more. Maybe not still not truly understanding it, but at least getting a grasp of what it's of understanding it and knowing that what I'm doing is on me.
Right. That total accountability.
Yeah. And being okay with it. I can't be mad at myself for being like, why did I do it? Like, you're the one that decided to do it.
Literally.
It's like, you can't be mad at yourself for something that you, regardless of whether you were aware of it or not, you ultimately did at the end of the day.
You're culpable. It's your responsibility.
Yeah. And that's what I've been able to like kind of grasp on more. And like I said, keep this in the video if you want, but with Carl's dude, I've been hanging out with him so much that he's helped me a lot along with your advice. And like, just thinking about like, at the end of the day, like it's really, you have to be, one of the best advice I got too is that you have to be okay with being alone and being comfortable and like being okay with oneself, you know, because the codependency was a stem of just being so afraid of being by yourself and being so scared of it. That's my whole life. And I think I recently I had this whole like thinking about, why am I the way that I am? And it's not trying to like dwell or sulk in it. It's just understanding why I got to this point.
Right.
You know, like
psychoanalyzing yourself.
Yeah. Like this is just my own psychoanalysis for sure. I think it really started from the moment I moved here to Missouri. Because it like when you move to a new place, there's, you know, you can either adjust to it very well or you can't. Personally, I didn't adjust to it very well. Like when I moved here, I was scared of anything and everything. Like I would just stay cooped up in the house and like being away from my family, being away from all that stuff and just being scared of everything and anything. And not realizing my own potential because I was just so scared of human being. And wasn't until 23, 24 when I actually got a job that started unlocking little by little. Like this has been increments of just breaking down those insecurities, the egos, everything little by little. And like I said, this isn't me trying to like use my past as a crutch. It's just trying to understand where I came from and why I am who I am and
learn.
Yeah. No, just yeah. Like you said, learn. And that's something I've been doing recently. And just like, of course I had those moments. If I would have known I would have done this, I would have done that, but it is what it is. I'm not gonna be like, oh, I should have done this, man.
I'm dwelling on it, sulking on it.
Yeah, no. So that's, like I said, everything that's been happening recently is just kind of been figuring out on my own and understanding my own potential.
I like you, brother.
So, and going back to what I was going to say, I still work at the port, right? I started talking to Dion and he told me like, dude, yeah, the way you carry yourself, the way you've been walking and talking, bro, I've seen you've been in a better place. And I'm like, yeah, that's crazy. And like, it's just from the increments of just applying those different formulas and different like things into my own life and not overthinking, overanalyzing and just going for it. And my mindset now is like, look, all this stuff is not going to kill me because I used to treat everything like it was a do or die situation.
Right.
And just like, oh my God, is it going to be the death of me? And it's like, it's not going to kill you. Like,
so, I mean, that's the thing, Danny. Do you understand at least why I maintain a level of intense integrity and accountability, especially with someone like you in my life?
I would say because you see the potential that I didn't even see in myself that I'm starting to see little by little. Like you saw my potential and the grand scheme of it from the jump, you know? And myself, when I first encountered it, it's just a little tiny increment of like, what is this potential that I have? And slowly opening up more and more and thinking like, wow, this is crazy. Like skateboarding, like, you know, that's helped me kind of understand my potential more and more. And then going out and doing things that make me uncomfortable and whatever it is, not just working out nutrition, but just like going up to people and talking to them or doing something funny or something stupid for like a YouTube video, things like that. Just understanding like more and more my potential and like not just being so caught up in my own world, but paying attention to the world around me and just focusing on myself internally, but not, like I said, just being so cooped up in it. That makes sense?
Oh yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Because when you're cooped up in your own world, you lose sight of the groundedness to truly understand how the world works. Because your world is irrelevant in comparison to the world, right? And if anybody wants to argue that, I'd love to. If anybody thinks that your world is more important than the world, then we should definitely have a conversation. The reason I ask that is because there was a point where Enza even revealed to me that you were legit worried whether or not whether or not we were friends, whether or not I still wanted you in my life and stuff like that. You started realizing the importance of having certain people around. And I'm not saying I'm some important person to be around in your life, but just with respect to the things that I intentionally try to offer you because you're my people. It's like once that starts getting spit on, and smacked in the face, you can at least understand why I would stop. Why I would tell myself at this point it would be insane of me to keep on trying to help out Danny when I'm not getting any results. And if anything, it's not about me getting the results. It's me wasting my time because he's not getting the results.
Because I'm not prioritizing or wanting it as bad. And
how can why should I want it more than you? And that's when I train people 9 times out of 10, that is the issue between those who actually commit to the change and become self-sustained versus those who want to be led to the water and forced to drink it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I can only do so much, and I'm only one human, and I only have so much energy and time and effort in the day to truly be able to lead you to that water before I have to at some point say, when does this become detrimental to me? When do I start becoming insane by placating your insanity?
That's you for sure, thinking 2-3 steps ahead of the long-term picture.
Mm-hmm.
And with myself, like I said, not grasping that and not thinking about, because obviously sometimes I still have those tendencies of
course,
being caught up in my own world. I don't think about other people.
Do you realize, but bro, I have insecurities every day that I said parallel and mirroring just a second ago, but that parallel and mirror a lot of the things you experience, which is why I try so hard to make sure you're good. Because I know what it was like to be in your position and not have somebody, especially somebody like me who's trying to be that person who I didn't have.
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of it too was my own, the insecurity mirrored as ego.
Right.
And when we first met, the ego was very prominent, but it was underneath that. It was just insecurity because I was trying to be perfect, perfectionism. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
I got my shit together. But as we started working out more and more, you were breaking that down for me. And we were breaking it down together. You know what I mean? And just understanding that what I'm doing, I need to change it up. You know what I mean? For the betterment of. And then of course, when we had that, when we didn't, talk to each other for months, it wasn't like, oh, I'm not doing anything. Like I said, with hanging out with Carlos, he's actually
been a good mentor figure for you.
He has been, and he's actually been helping me out a lot. And
Nice.
The advice that I've been getting from him, bro, it's been so life-changing. And just taking different, getting advice and just people that I can actually trust. And and the reason why I got comfortable and I was worried that we weren't friends is because, the information you give me, that advice, bro, I take a lot of that to heart. And of course, the utilization might not be, the application of it might not be instant,
of course,
but the fact that I'm able to retain it in my head and then later on I'm able to apply it means that your words aren't just a bunch of caveat that actually mean something to me. You know what I mean? And that's why I was worried. It's like, I in a way I do, it's like a validation in a way, but also too is just knowing that I want you to know that I'm not trying to waste your time. You know what I mean? Sometimes I do and for example, you might think that I'm not fully utilizing it. And it's sometimes just me being scared. You know what I mean? For the example, the manscape stuff, I want to, but then I guess get in my head for some reason. I don't know why. And it's just like, oh, should I do it? Do I do it? And I just start overthinking stuff. But it just, in a way, at the end of it, it means that you mean something to me. Your advice, you speak your truth. So it's like I said, all this stuff that I'm getting, it's that I'm internalizing. It's something that I'm still synthesizing, still trying to understand, but it's unlocking more and more. You know what I mean? It means a lot.
It's awesome, dog. Because again, dude, if I didn't, it's just like the coaches, if they're not on your ass, they don't care, right? It's like if I didn't care, I wouldn't consistently be on your shit. And I can only imagine the sort of genius you will continue to manifest whenever you have a consistent basis of optimization in your day-to-day. And you're doing it, brother. And that's the beautiful part, because you're doing it with your base fitness A1. And I do hella respect that. And again, I want to get to kind of like what your goals actually are and everything else. But no matter what your goals are, no matter what you want to do fitness-wise, no matter what you want to do career-wise, none of that matters if your vessel isn't A1 and your vessel is fueled by certain foods and certain macronutrients that should at least be considered and understood at a fundamental level before you even think about adding anything else on that plate.
Now that I think about it, I think the reason why I struggle with this so much is that for pretty much my entire life, the nutrition at any time in my life was always on one extreme or the other. I've never been accustomed to that happy medium balance because, when I was overweight and obese, I was so used to the extreme of eating extreme junk food, but like not being self-aware of like how detrimental it was.
Right.
But then once I started, losing weight, it was kind of on the extreme of not eating enough. Not anorexia, thank God, but like it was just on that extreme. And then whenever I started understanding the nutrition part of eating clean, I was so extreme on that, like so extreme, like a million miles an hour. And it's always been on one side or the other. And that idea of just like finding that balance and medium is such foreign territory to me that it scares the living shit out of me.
So how do we address that? And how do we find that equal medium?
The way I've been doing it, as I told you, was that at least I'm keeping in mind of what I need to put in my body. For example, protein, carbs, easy.
Well, I'm gonna tell you this: the 100 grams of protein isn't enough.
I mean, it's crazy because
how much do you? It's crazy because what?
No, it's crazy because at one point I was doing 300 grams a day.
That's my point. But you're better off doing that than 100. But 300 isn't sustainable. Probably isn't as sustainable for you as 100 would be. But you should think about the science is continually changing. The science isn't changing. Our discovery on the implications of certain routes within the science is continually changing. They say generally a rule of thumb is you should have 1 pound per body weight. So how much do you weigh?
About 160.
You should be eating at least 160 grams of protein. See how you're 60 grams off? And again, but it's not about being perfect. It's about knowing how to be efficient enough. But that efficient enough requires a level of uncomfort that's going to take significant volunteering of sacrifice and suffering that you're not going to be able to get. No different than even if I walked you to the pond, you still got to reach your neck down and drink the water yourself. So let's think about what that looks like, though. All it looks like for you, bro, is watching that video that I have, right? Going on MyFitnessPal, tracking your food, knowing what your macronutrients should be. When you have that base set of macronutrients down, you need to just meet that every day. But you see how all that effort requires a certain level of interest, and that interest can't be substantiated if you're just coasting.
And also, like, aside from interest is having a goal. You know what I mean? And
what is your goal?
Like I said, right now it's just to keep myself active. Like I've been in that both sides of losing weight and wanting to do that.
so okay. Yeah. So your goal right now is to be active. Fine.
Yeah.
What's your nutrition look like day to day in terms of junk food to clean food? What's the ratio look like?
Let me think about this.
And not even junk food. We'll call it convenience food. Effort food versus convenience food. How much of the food are you eating a day are you cooking versus you're just getting it from somebody? And if your parents are cooking it, I'll let that slide and say you're cooking it.
It's very zigzag for sure. From what I know from the top of my head, it can be very zigzag. It's kind of hard to tell just thinking about it.
What did you eat today?
What did I eat today? 2 protein bars.
What time? What'd you break fast with? What time did you wake up?
I woke up at 12:30 today.
In the afternoon? Is that a normal thing?
Dude. Only when I'm don't have work the next day or have work that morning.
Okay, in the mornings you have work. What time are you waking up?
8:30ish.
And what time? How many days a week is that?
It used to be 5, but now it's only 2.
So 2 days a week, you're waking up at 8:30, but every other day of the week, you're waking up at noon.
Not necessarily, but I understand what you mean.
Well, I need to know what's necessarily. Well, I mean,
because that's only because because I stayed up pretty late.
Is that a normal thing?
It changes from time to time, but sometimes it can be, sometimes it won't.
What's the average time you wake up on days you don't go to work or don't go to work early?
Usually it's around between 10:30 and 11:30. Usually when I'm not working or when I'm really, around 10:30 or 11:30, around there.
Even if it's 10:30, I just want to put it in perspective. I used to have to wake up at 3:45. I would be at work at 4:30. I would train the first class at 5 a.m. I would train people all day from 5 a.m. until noon. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, noon, 7 hours. I've already been up for 5 hours by the time you're awake, by the time you're first waking up. All that means is your days become shorter, and then your justifications for certain complacency become stronger because you don't have literally enough time in the day at that point. And so I should have caveated all this with asking what time you woke up, what time you go to bed, because that honestly can tell me a big reason why a lot of your actions may not be as optimal or as comfortable as they otherwise could be. Mm-hmm. What time do you usually go to bed every night?
Usually it can stem between 1 to 2:30 a.m. because I try to justify it in my own head. It's like if I at least get 6 hours minimum,
that's good. At least you're doing that.
Then I should be fine.
But you're getting like 9 if you're waking up
on some
waking
days.
Up at 10:30. Yeah, that's fair, bro. I've been there. You have no idea who you're talking to. I've literally been king degenerate, just sitting on my ass all day playing video games, watching YouTube. No job. I've been there. That's why I find it hilarious when all this optimization talk has been underlined with me not even realizing you have to get your fucking sleeping right first. Why do you think you're not sleeping until 1 or 2 a.m.? Because you're not earning it. Is that safe to say, or is that unfair?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It's
do you think you're earning your sleep every day?
I don't really think about it.
I know you don't think about it because that's why you don't earn it. That's why you can go to bed at 1 or 2 a.m. It's a pretty self-evident answer, especially with respect to me knowing legit what your personal life is like. Mm-hmm. And I'm just saying with respect to like being self-sufficient, being, again, I'll cut this shit out, but like living at home, all that shit, right? That I'm saying because you still live at home and shit, bro, like you're not even doing the base fucking minimum to be like independent, being uncomfortable, being independent. So then being uncomfortable, being independent, and then being optimal. That's why a lot of my boys, like on Facebook, a lot of the men that I went to high school with that are super depressed, that are super lost and don't know what to do with their life, 9 times out of 10, it's because their day-to-day is caught up in just surviving in their 9 to 5. So they don't have the energy to actually commit to the 5 to 9 of being a better version of themselves. So for you, like a lot of your shit is you almost caveating the struggle of I don't have enough time and I'm trying my best, and like the efforts are like, they are substantiated. I'm not trying to shit on your efforts, but you're able to have these efforts on a free wave of dependency. And because of that, it's like your effort should be 50 times more than everybody else's fucking efforts because you don't have to pay rent. Because you don't have to buy your food every week. That make sense?
Yeah. There's still a lot of things I need to figure out.
For sure, brother. And it's not, again, Rome wasn't built in a day. And I only say that because you should be able to identify that and take advantage of it. You should be able to say, you're right, Mitch, because I am staying at home, I will be able to add more rigorous discipline on my plate because I don't have to worry about the rigorous discipline of being independent.
At the time, I think it's when I hear the words, I don't understand the magnitude of what those words really or what you say really means until I see it for myself and experience. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
And like I said, for example, living in the truth, like I didn't really know what that meant until recently. And
Took you a year to figure it out.
yeah, and it's like I said, a part of me wants to feel bad for not knowing, or maybe I should, but I'm like, you know what I mean? Like I don't wanna I don't wanna, start sulking or dwelling or nothing.
For sure, brother. I'm only saying a part of you that wants to be a victim is always justified because you and me as neurotic, emotional men always want to justify our neuroticism as being a victim. But when are we going to say enough's enough?
It really comes down to the individual and their own experiences. That's really what it comes down to, honestly. And it's like just really, really comes down to the individual.
Yep.
So it's for me when enough's enough, only time will tell, really.
I agree with you. I think you take for granted, and again, I think that's why you got a little insecure, thinking like, oh, will I ever be able to talk to Mitch again? Are we friends? Like all that stuff, right? Like, because you truly started understanding like, damn, the value of the words, the value of the insight, more importantly, the value of the time and effort that Mitch was putting into me is something I was taking for granted.
I was a lot of times, and I wasn't just, like I said, because I'm just so used to being tunnel vision and not seeing everything around me, or not being able to pick up on like the psychoanalyze what the other person is reacting or responding to what I'm doing, because I just think too much about what's going on in my own life,
Right.
and that's that's a lot of people in general. Just all they think about is themselves,
And they become very inconsiderate of how their selfish inward view of their own world is affecting other people's worlds, because you only thinking about your world and being inconsiderate of the effort and energy I'm putting into you ends up showing you at the end of the day that your world blinded you to that inconsideration. And then when my action showed you, nah, bro, you're good. Go handle your own shit. It was a reality check for you to be like, damn, I've been stuck in my own world too long.
Yeah, it's safe to say that that's what I'm kind of at right now. It's that I'm starting to understand it. You know what I mean? And
For sure.
like,
Let's turn this mic down just a little bit, like bend it down a little bit.
I got you.
There you go. There you go. And push it down just a little bit. There you go. Perfect.
But yeah, it's like I said, it's there's still so much I need to learn, and like at least I'm able to break past the ego and being like, yo, I have a lot of things I need to work on, and like, you know, I'm glad that with you, you're able to see that. And like I said, the crazy part is that, just now I'm starting to see my own potential within myself, and it's little by little, but you were able to see it from the jump and trying to unlock it little by little. And then by using the magnitude of your words, or just your words in general, and the magnitude of how important they are, and what they mean, for some people, they're gone. They're like, who cares? But it's like, damn. But for me, it's like, that's another thing where I live in my truth. I'm like, I'm gonna everything I've been texting you, like I've been being honest with you, not trying to caveat, because I get scared. I get scared when I text you, because I know what you already know what I'm thinking, but I'm like, you know what? Even if he doesn't know what I'm thinking, I'm still gonna say it, because at least I'm living in my truth with you. You know what I mean? And that's the one thing I can do on my part, just living in my truth, which is crazy. Like I said, the fact that we're even here again for a third time, I didn't think we were gonna be here a second time. And it's like, I know with you, when it comes to bringing people back on a podcast, you got to make sure that they're able to bring something new, not just the same stuff from last time, because otherwise, why even do it in the first place? Because, no one knew information, no one knew something to elaborate on, or things like that. And, that's, like I said, it's just something that I've thought about recently. And it's fair to say that I'm definitely in a better space than I was, last time we were here. And, there's things that I'm experiencing that, might not do much, or there might be something that finally clicks in my head from experience to where that makes sense, or things like that. And it's just,
For sure, brother.
Crazy. It's insane.
Well, Danny, straight up, brother, you got all the potential in the world. I wouldn't waste effort and energy on people if it was futile, meaning if it truly, and I've done it, but I've spent a lot of time on some of my closest people, from high school, some of the closest people in my life post high school, after a certain point, you have to ask yourself, when's enough enough? And how about this? My actions will always show you a reflective mirror of how I'm seeing your actions with respect to our relationship. Because if you did take my words lightly, and if you didn't truly show through your actions and your efforts that a lot of this shit makes sense for you, then my efforts and my actions would have already reflected that, like they kind of already have. But dude, third time, it's amazing to have you on. Real stuff, brother. Like, it's amazing to have you on because there's a million things we can talk about. There's a lot of things I still want to ask you, but I wanted to clear the air just with respect to where we stand and where you can stand, especially on the shoulders of giants, continually trying to not only practice but preach on being the top 1% version of yourself, which is mending the 3 whole versions of yourself in your thoughts, words, and actions, and making sure that your thoughts are matching your words, which eventually match your actions. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Do you have any questions, thoughts, like concerns for me?
I mean, first off, I think it's fair to say that thoughts, words, and actions are starting to become parallel with each other. They're starting to connect more, and
it shows in, like I said, in your behaviors and your actions, brother. Like, you say a lot of things, and I know you think a lot of things, but how often are your actions in symbiosis with those two?
It was never in tune before, like, you know, even when we first connected. But it's fair to say that it's starting to connect more and more right now, and I'm being self-aware of that. I'm so, like, proud of myself for how far I've come just in this short time span, but also knowing that there's so much more to expand on. Mm-hmm. And of course, never going to be easy. And it's up to me to really, you know, go for it little by little or just go full force. And it just depends on the experience. And it's, like I said, my foundation for my Roman Coliseum is still underway. And that's, you know, most important. You know what I mean? And
brick by brick.
Yeah. And like when you texted me, being like, actions speak louder than words, I really tried to think about, like, what does that mean? Like, how? But I think really it just goes back to what my mindset is. Like, I don't have to think about my actions speak louder than words. Like, what does that mean? It was like, really, it just comes back to the thoughts and words. I mean, it's fair to say that right now, what I'm saying really, and it connects well with my actions, you know, just how I'm speaking, how I'm carrying myself right now in this moment is pretty in line with what I'm saying.
Post-workout podcast, you worked out right before this.
Yeah.
That's a good example, good indicator.
Yeah. So like I said, I'm very proud to say that right now I'm in a better spot than what I was even 4 months ago when we did the podcast. Because that time, I was starting to become somewhat starting to become certain of myself.
Right.
Little by little. And then now it's like, it's way better than it is.
Dude, think about it. For the rest of your life, you're going to have literally a trilogy iteration of you at one stage of your life to a second stage to a third.
Which is crazy because when you ask me, like, why don't you look at the old clips of yourself? Like, dude, I don't want to think about it because I know exactly where my head was at and I don't like to think about it.
But wait, and is it because it makes you uncomfortable?
Big time.
Right. But again, dude, if you will look back and reflect on those and psychoanalyze yourself in those videos, in that format, in that setting, the amount of self-reflection it'll initiate and the amount of self-growth that it'll cause by you reconciling with all those uncomfortable thoughts and feelings of having to reconcile with your mindset at those times, especially the first one, right? And then looking at the second one as this almost false, extra evolved version than the first one that I think is more parallel with this version of you with respect to who you thought you were in that second one, comparing it to the first.
Yeah, and it's fair to say with that moment of the internal being parallel with the external, where I was just like, whoa, that honestly was another catalyst to being able to get to the point to where I am now. And maybe I didn't truly understand the magnitude of it, but at least I got an idea of what it was. And then it started building on itself.
And you got it documented forever. Think about that.
It's crazy. I mean, I'm happy. I'm happy to say that. And like, the fact that that happened and now getting to where I'm at now, all the different advice topics you give me, along with other people that have actually impacted my life, I've actually been able to implement it. And think about the first time the first episode, I was really struggling bad with codependency, hence the defending. You know what I'm talking
Oh,
about.
yeah.
That was from being so codependent and insecurity.
Look how aware you are, though, dog. That's crazy.
I know it's crazy to me to even think about, because when you're in the moment, you don't think about, because you're just so used to it.
You know what I think the problem is? I don't think you're around enough people that really make you think and feel like this often enough. Because if you, dude, this version, you in this mindset, dude, if you were in this mindset day by day for 6 months, you would be astounded at the sort of growth and the amount of cobblestones you would lay down in place to building that Coliseum.
I just haven't experienced it enough, because those years prior, I was just so, comfortable and just being in my own insecurity and being completely complacent.
Completely, bro. How uncomfortable is it though? Because do you understand how uncomfortable my friends are when they meet me for the first time, because I maintain the same level of intensity irrespective of who's in the room? And as a result, I can only imagine how uncomfortable it is for my friends who want to just chill at times. And it's like, Mitch, can you just take a break? Can you just chill? And it's like, this is me taking a break. This is me chilling. Like, I understand that's a lot, but do you understand what sort of mindset it helps build for someone like you? And how for you, legit sitting in this understanding and reconciling with all your ineptitudes and how your losses can now be learning lessons, the amount of genius you're articulating right now, it's just, how often do you put yourself in that mindset? How often are people giving you that critical input and that constructive, again, perspective to really give you the idea of like, dude, you can build shit and you could be a king. When are you going to start doing it though?
It's fair to say that with recently, it's advice that isn't be like, dude, you're so capable. It's just, in a way, reassurance that for some reason I'm able to take it in and my brain is able to realize my own potential. That makes sense. Like, just understanding that, having that reassurance, but also just have it really reassurance, and also just hearing it and just being like, wow, you know what I mean? Applying my
I was gonna say, but that just having that reassurance, just hearing it from someone else depends on what? Someone else depends on what? It co-depends on what? Someone else.
Yeah. But also knowing that I have the information now,
right?
And it's gonna be in my brain for the rest of my life.
Right.
And no matter how lost I might get in the future,
you'll always have that in yours.
Yeah. And just being able to reassure myself, you know what I mean?
Right.
Especially with like being okay with being by myself. You know what I mean? When I'm with my own thoughts and being okay with it and not letting those little negativity try to come in and, beat the shit out of me.
Mm-hmm.
Back then I used to let just stomp on me all the time. Now it's like,
I'm gonna fight back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only time I would have those moments is when I was when I'm falling asleep and I'm in my head really bad, to where it feels like I'm about to die. But for some reason I always have that, just this head like, wait, this isn't real. You can fight back. And it's like, this ain't real.
This ain't real, man.
And like, it's always been there. It's taking time. But like I said, it's crazy to even think about.
It's dope to see too, brother. It's really dope to see. But it's got to be a consistent effort day by day. Consistent effort day by day. And I hope you see my actions are going to be continually one that is consistent with 2 + 2 being 4, meaning being your best self is going to always be the same, in that it's going to require a level of sacrifice in being uncomfortable.
Being that your brand is self-sustained training, I've had this little thought in my head. It's like, wow, I'm starting to become more self-sustained. It's insane to even think about that. I'm having that thought and knowing that I'm becoming little by little self-sustained is insane to me. There's so much more for sure. But the fact that I'm able to recognize that I'm starting to become more and more self-sustained is such a crazy thought to even think about in the first place. And it's just through how people say that trusting the process, as cliche as it is, it's cliche for a reason.
Right.
You know what I mean? And trusting that process is something that I've actually been doing more, and by just not overthinking about it and just being like, okay, what happened?
That's why Dion even says he sees a different glow in you. That's why people are noticing. And again, you're not doing it for them to notice, but it's evident in your effort and in your actions that you are truly being self-sustained. Doesn't that give you confidence though? Doesn't that make you feel good, bro?
It does. And of course, you know, pushing myself more and more, like, for example, like wanting to go out and, you know, talk to a stranger or things like
drop down the bowl on in a skate park.
Oh, I'm getting there.
I know, brother.
I know, literally that video I sent you, bro, that was like the craziest moment. Like that, I really didn't think I could do it, but I said, screw it. If I die, I die. That's what I was telling myself. And then I went for it and I'm like, oh, it's not that bad anymore. And I actually had a chance to text Sam the day after his loss about 2 weeks ago, I say. Me and him were just talking it up and being like, man, it's crazy how people turn on you so quickly because you lose. And like people are like, you were talking all that shit. Like I know he was talking a whole bunch of shit. Shout out to Sam. You're dope. But yeah, and we were talking about that and being like, yeah, man, it sucks that, like, you know, when you have that confidence, but then you lose, people are like, why do you have it? Like, you should sit down. You got your ass. I'm like, no, dude, it's like, that's fighting. You win some, you lose some. Like, and it's the same thing with life in general. Like, you know, people want to be there when you're at your greatest, but then when you're at your lowest, they turn on you so quickly.
Did you watch mine and Cody's podcast when we talked about why people locally won't support their local people, but will spend all this money going to Drake concerts and supporting all these other people, these strangers that they've never met?
I think I saw a little bit of it. I mean, I remember, like, yeah, and I've had these conversations even before that.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, just Cody made a very poignant point in that conversation on people will want to celebrate with you when you're at the top, but they won't celebrate with you when you're at the bottom. And when they're not celebrating with you at the bottom, they still have that expectation that when you get to the top, if they then jump back on the bandwagon, they deserve to party in the penthouse with you and shit.
It's like, that's not how it works.
But it's
it's so annoying.
Yeah, but again, it's annoying if you put the weight on how you value their input in the first place. And it's like, if I did this, dude, I've been doing this podcast for over a year, almost a year and a half. And if I put the weight on the superficial qualifying success parameters that are gauged by other people, I would have stopped a long time ago. But I don't do it for them.
I'm happy for you that you're able to recognize that from a long time ago. That was something I didn't really recognize. Like when I was on my TikTok shit,
right?
I was doing it for others, and then I kind of stopped doing it for a couple months, and then I kind of went back on it for a little bit, and I kind of stopped, and I just stopped doing it in general because it's like I don't want to put myself in a bubble or try to act like a circus act and be like, oh, I want to do this and do that. Like with social media stuff, I haven't really, like, I'm not right. I used to be all about social media, like, oh, I want to be this viral sensation. I'm like, honestly, I don't really care anymore. Like, it could change, but right now I just don't care. Of course, I still look at like Instagram reels and TikToks and stuff, but like I don't want that right now. I don't want that. It's too much on my head. Like one of the things I recognize, I get burnt out very quickly, and I think it stems from why I'm doing something in the first place.
Is it for others or is it for yourself?
Yeah, like with working out too, I've been able to sustain it, especially weeks on end recently, because I'm doing it for myself, and I know that I'm able to sustain it long term because I'm doing it for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like with social media and everything like that,
it's literally for others.
Yeah, it's for others, but like also at the stem of it, doing it for others is just, I realize now it's not sustainable. And
it's not.
It never was and never will.
But do you see the content I post and how the content I post is always content I want to post, whether or not it gets 1,000 views, whether or not it gets a certain amount of likes and qualifies as successful in other people's eyes?
Yeah, because it's your stuff and you want to put it out there. Like, and it's funny because, you know, you put it out there, it might not do something right now, but you never know. The algorithm might pull a trick on you. It might just be like, hey, check this out.
And again, whether it does or it doesn't, the foundation in which we're doing it in the first place is really all that matters. And if we can, again, have a solid place in our mind where we're comfortable with the effort we put in and earning our sleep at night, right? And knowing that we actually did everything we could to fall asleep, let alone actually put out a product that we're proud to have put out. Yeah, it doesn't matter if it gets 1,000 likes, 1,000,000 likes, or 1 like. It's the fact that I'm proud and I'm happy with the effort that was put into creating that thing that's now there forever.
That's how I feel about Is It Bad? It's about to hit 1,000 streams, and like
That's a good song, bro.
it's fair to say that song was, I worked on it for 5 months, and it was, I guess in a way it was a little peak of what my potential is.
Right.
And I was just doing it for fun. And if I put it out, okay, cool. And then, of course, having Darcy on it, she was dope as hell on it, and like I just didn't know what was gonna happen with it. And then we put it out. She did all the promotion. I didn't really promote. I can't lie, but I texted her, like, I felt so bad. She was like, "Dude, you did all the work on the song. It's my honor to do that part." I'm like, yeah, but at the same time, like, but at the end of the day, I'm proud of that song. Like, I was just listening to it yesterday, and I was like, when you listen to your own stuff, you that worst critic light turns on. But I was just listening to him like, this is my song, and I like it. Like I actually can listen to it, put on, and just enjoy it for what it is. For sure.
Is it bad to feel the way that I do? Is it bad to feel the way that feels true? Is it bad?
Thanks for watching that clip. This episode is brought to you by Manscaped.com. Support for self-sustained training is brought to you by the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped just launched their 4th generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right, the 4.0. Join the 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free shipping worldwide with code SST at manscaped.com.
Yeah, shout out to Manscaped, man. They were nice enough to send us this Performance Package 4.0, which is their luxury grooming kit. And it comes with the Lawnmower 4.0 electric trimmer, the Weed Whacker for your ear and your nose hairs, and then all your post-shave performance essentials in the deodorant and the toner. Plus, they give you an anti-chafing boxer, which is super comfortable.
Super comfortable.
And then they top off the Performance Package with the nice little travel bag so you can carry all of your grooming tools with you. And you can get 20% off and free shipping with code SST at manscaped.com.
That's 20% off using code SST at manscaped.com. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools with the job using Manscaped.